this country always has done well. They say in stocks that you should buy stock in a business that's so good that even an idiot can run it, because sooner or later one will. And that's not terrible advice. Well, that seems to have been sort of the history of this country from time to time. I mean, we've had all these problems that have come along. If you look back on the last 100 years and list all the problems this country's run into, you can make a very long list. And a lot of people who focused on those problems at the time have missed the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that every generation lives better than the one before it. And that's because of savings, because savings enable people to create new tools to do better things as they go along. And it's also due to an environment that lets people realize their potential to a greater degree than, in this country, you don't have some commissar or something running a big business in this country. You've got a guy like Jack Welch, and a fellow like Jack Welch makes a difference of night and day in terms of the productivity of that business over a period of decades. And productivity is what causes the standard of living to rise. So a system that throws up the Jack Welches of the world to run businesses is going to have an enormous advantage over a society that does it by heredity. It's led to great things, and it will continue to lead to great things. So I think you've got the best future. You don't face a war. You've got a better future in terms of achieving material rewards than any generation in history. So I wish I could trade you places. In this country, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but so I think you'll wake up on January 1st and find the world hasn't changed from December 31st. Now, I would say this: you might get a whole bunch of friends to write you checks for $1 billion. If the system gets fouled up, you might find a lot of money in your account, but I wouldn't count on it.
And I was wondering, how do you decide what you invest your time and money in?
Yeah, well, I like to find businesses that have good economics. Now, what are good economics? Well, good economics are a business that has some kind of a moat around it that makes its product or its service or its location or something a little more desirable to the customer than any other sort of comparable product. Regarding the sustainability of a competitive advantage, something special about a product. So we look for those kind of products. And then we look for people that are running the business that are honest and able, going to stay wonderful for a long period of time. There are a lot of businesses that looked like they were going to stay wonderful, but really evaporated over time. But that's what we're looking for. And the nice thing about it is we don't have to find very many. If we find one a year, that's terrific. Because you don't need 100 or 1,000 great investment ideas to do well. You need a couple. And in business, you don't have to swing at anything. You can sit there and the paper says General Motors at 68, or it says General Electric at 115, or it says General Dynamics at 63. And if you don't like those prices, you don't have to swing. You can wait there day after day after day after day, and there are no called strikes. Now, when you swing, when you decide to buy something, then you can simply wait for that one time in a month or 6 months or a year or 2 or 3 years, when you really know what you're doing, where you like the price, where you like the people running the business. So that's the way we try to pick businesses. We try to stay with things we understand. There can be all kinds of wonderful investment opportunities out there that I don't understand. I don't know what cocoa beans are going to do next year. Maybe but I don't know. I don't know what crude oil is going to sell for. But I don't have to know. I just have to know the things. I have to know what I know. I have to know where the limits of my understanding are, what my circle of competence is. And if I'm only able to evaluate 5% of the businesses in the world, no problem. I just stay within that 5% and try and find something. And most people get in trouble in investments because they can't discipline themselves, and they hear about other people making money. Nothing upsets people so much as to hear about their friends making money. That's very destructive to discipline, because they think, I'm smarter than that guy next door, and he just bought that new car with the money he made trading stocks on the internet, so why can't I? Well, the answer is you can't over time. You will lose money if you trade stocks actively. And it's hard to exercise the discipline. You've got to have a reason for thinking that it makes an intelligent investment. You do the same thing if you're buying a farm or an apartment house. If you're buying a farm, you'd say, I'm buying this farm at $1,000 an acre because I think I can earn $60 an acre on it. If corn sells at such and such, and soybean sells at such, and yield is such and such, and you'd figure it out. That's the same reason you buy businesses. And when you buy stocks, you're buying a little piece of a business. And that's probably the most important thing to remember in investing, is that when you are buying a stock, you're buying a little piece of the business. And if you are buying it at an attractive price for the business, for the whole business, you're going to make money. And if you aren't, over time, you won't make money.
Reverend Jesse Jackson talked to us earlier. He seemed to believe that the moral standards of today's society will eventually affect us in business. How do you feel this will affect us as youth growing up in the United States?
Well, I think very difficult to quantify moral standards over time. I mean, you can pick out huge weaknesses at any given time in terms of how people or the country is behaving, and huge strengths. So I think it's enormously difficult to quantify. I think by and large we have made progress in what I would call institutionalized moral standards in this country. I mean, in terms of slavery, in terms of the women couldn't vote, a century ago. Half the country were second-class citizens in that respect, and they had much lesser rights in terms of inheritance and all kinds of things. I think in terms of institutionalized moral standards, the country has made really quite significant progress in the last 100 years. I think, there's an enormous distance to go. I think we're going in the right direction, maybe by fits and starts, but I think we're going in the right direction, and I think that it will be a significant plus, for women's suffrage. I mean, that went for decades and decades and decades. Women couldn't be on a jury. I was reading the trial of Clarence Darrow. There were no women on the jury. The woman wasn't allowed to be on a jury. They weren't citizens in that sense.
My question is, to what extent do you feel that the government, with the current policies of welfare and Social Security, is it financially competent and fiscally prepared for the future?
Well, I think that the country as a whole is quite well prepared for the future. That doesn't mean I would adopt every policy they have, but I think we have an enormously rich society, and it'll get richer. Everyone isn't going to participate in that. Some won't participate because of physical disabilities, others because of mental disabilities, others because of shortcomings in the education they received when they were growing up, all kinds of reasons. We have a prosperous enough society to be able to take care of those people, and we should take care of them. And how we do it, we continue to encourage people to be more productive themselves and all that. I mean, those are not easy questions, but that shouldn't take our eye off the ball of feeling we should do something about it. I want to thank you all. I wish you well. You're going to do terrific. Thanks.
沃伦·巴菲特的演讲充满了深刻的启示，对于任何希望在生活和投资中取得成功的人来说，都具有重要的指导意义。他通过历史经验告诉我们，即使美国在过去100年里遇到了无数挑战，但整体上国家在不断进步。这种进步不仅仅来自于经济增长，还得益于储蓄、技术创新和释放个人潜力。因此，在面对困难时，要看到大局，不要被眼前的问题所迷惑。巴菲特的投资哲学一直被视为黄金准则。他认为，投资者应该寻找那些具有竞争优势、能够长期保持良好状态的企业，而不是频繁交易或追逐市场热点。具体来说，巴菲特建议寻找有护城河的企业，这些企业的产品或服务具有独特性，能够持续吸引客户。此外，投资者应坚持长期投资，不要因为短期市场波动而动摇。像买农场一样，买股票时要有长期的视角。同时，保持耐心和纪律也至关重要。巴菲特强调，投资者不必每天都做出交易决策，而是要等待合适的机会。通过学习巴菲特的这些投资智慧，个人可以避免盲目跟风，建立更加稳健的投资组合。巴菲特还谈到了社会进步的重要性。他指出，美国在制度化的道德标准上取得了显著进展，如废除奴隶制、赋予女性投票权等。虽然仍有很长的路要走，但方向是正确的。巴菲特启示我们，个人和企业都应相信并推动社会进步，关注长期影响。政策和决策应考虑到长期的社会效益， 而不仅仅是眼前的利益。此外，巴菲特认为，一个繁荣的社会应该照顾到每一个成员，尤其是那些因身体或精神障碍而无法自立的人。他强调，社会的富裕程度使得我们有能力也有责任去帮助这些人。在追求个人和企业成功的同时，不要忘记对社会的贡献。每个人都应该有机会分享社会的繁荣。